The secret of the 1960 medal. The world of football is a tapestry woven with passion, triumph, and shadows. Long before the FIFA Club World Cup crowned global champions, the Intercontinental Cup stood as the ultimate battleground for the titans of Europe and South America. In 1960, Real Madrid's victory over Peñarol etched a legendary chapter in the sport's history, or so the world believed. Decades later, a single medal from that fateful match resurfaces, carrying a secret that could unravel the very foundation of football's legacy. This is the story of a relentless journalist, a cryptic code, and a conspiracy buried for over half a century. Welcome to the secret of the 1960 medal, a tale of pursuit, betrayal, and the dark truths hidden in the beautiful game. Chapter 1. The Auction. New York City, April 2025. The auction house on Madison Avenue hummed with anticipation. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over rows of velvet chairs where collectors, historians, and football aficionados whispered excitedly. Daniel Harper, a 38-year-old investigative journalist for the Global Pitch, sat in the back, his notebook untouched on his lap. His sharp eyes scanned the room, not for the spectacle, but for the man who held the key to his latest obsession. Lot 47, a 1960 Intercontinental Cup gold medal awarded to a Real Madrid player after their 5-1 aggregate triumph over Peñarol. The auction catalog called it a rare artifact of football history, valued at $150,000. But Daniel's sources, anonymous posts on X, and cryptic emails suggested it was more than a trophy. The medal's owner, Victor Grayson, a reclusive American collector, had acquired it under murky circumstances. Whispers on X claimed it hid a secret, one that could shake the sport to its core. The auctioneer's voice boomed. Lot 47, the 1960 Intercontinental Cup medal. Bidding starts at $100,000. Daniel's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, an anonymous message. The medal hides a code. Find it before they do. His pulse quickened. He'd spent years chasing football's dark underbelly, match fixing, doping, corruption. But this felt different. The air in the room seemed to thicken as bids climbed past $200,000. A man in a tailored black suit raised his paddle. His face was half hidden by a fedora, but his presence was unmistakable, like a predator among prey. The bid hit $300,000. Silence fell. The gavel struck. Sold. Daniel slipped out of the auction house, the message burning in his mind. Grayson was nowhere to be seen, and the man in the fedora had vanished into the Manhattan night. Daniel needed answers. Who was the buyer, and what was the code? Chapter 2. The Collector's Shadow. Daniel's apartment in Brooklyn was a cluttered shrine to his investigations. Stacks of newspapers, pinned articles, and a whiteboard scrawled with names and dates. He sat at his desk, the anonymous message glowing on his laptop screen. Find it before they do. Who were they, and why a medal from 1960? He pulled up everything he could find on Victor Grayson. The collector was a ghost. No social media, no public appearances, just a name tied to rare sports memorabilia. An X post from a week ago mentioned Grayson selling artifacts to fund something big. Daniel cross-referenced the 1960 Intercontinental Cup. Real Madrid's victory was iconic,
with Alfredo Di Stefano and Ferenc Puskás leading a 5-1 rout over Peñarol, but nothing in the records hinted at foul play. His phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. "Check the engraving. Grayson knows." Daniel froze. The auction catalog had mentioned an engraving on the medal's edge, a detail dismissed as decorative. He needed to see it. Tracking Grayson wasn't easy. The collector's last known address was a penthouse in Manhattan, but a quick call to a contact at the city's property records revealed it was sold months ago. Daniel's only lead was a private club in Soho, rumored to be Grayson's haunt. He grabbed his jacket and headed out. The club, the Obsidian, was a fortress of exclusivity. Bouncers eyed Daniel as he flashed a press pass, claiming a meeting with Grayson. Inside, the air smelled of cigar smoke and old money. He spotted Grayson in a corner booth, a wiry man in his 60s with sharp eyes and a nervous tick. Daniel approached, but before he could speak, a hand clamped his shoulder. "Mr. Harper," a low voice said. The man in the fedora stood behind him, his grip like iron. "You're asking dangerous questions."
Chapter 4: The Madrid Connection. Madrid, Spain, April 2025. Daniel Harper landed at Adolfo Suarez Madrid Barajas Airport with the 1960 medal tucked in a hidden pocket of his jacket. The engraving RM60 P12 7X9 had haunted him through the transatlantic flight. The anonymous message, "Madrid, find the archive," pointed to the Spanish capital, but the city felt like a labyrinth waiting to trap him. Kessler's men, or whoever they worked for, couldn't be far behind. He checked into a modest hotel near Plaza Mayor, using cash to avoid a digital trail. His first stop was the Real Madrid Museum at the Santiago Bernabéu Stadium, a shrine to the club's storied history. If the code tied to 1960, the club's archives might hold answers. Daniel's press credentials got him a meeting with Elena Torres, the museum's curator, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s with a deep knowledge of Los Blancos' legacy. "The Intercontinental Cup of 1960, Elena mused, leading him through glass cases filled with trophies. A defining moment. Di Stefano, Puskás, a 5-1 rout over Peñarol. What's your interest?" Daniel hesitated, then showed her a photo of the medal on his phone, careful not to reveal he had the real thing. "This engraving, RM60 P12 7X9, does it mean anything to you?" Elena's expression tightened. "Where did you get this?" "A source," Daniel said vaguely. "I think it's a code." She glanced around, then lowered her voice. "The club's old records mention a P12 in 1960, but it's obscure. A reserve player, maybe. The archives are in a secure vault." But she trailed off, her eyes flicking to a man lingering near a display case. He wore a dark coat, his face half hidden. "Trouble?" Daniel asked. "Possibly," Elena whispered. "Meet me at the vault tonight, 10 p.m. Don't be followed." As Daniel left the museum, he sensed eyes on him. He doubled back through crowded streets, losing any tail in the bustle of Puerta del Sol. The medal felt heavier with every step. P12, a player, a position, and what was 7x9? He needed the archive, but the man in the dark coat was a warning. Madrid wasn't safe. That night, Daniel arrived at the stadium's underground vault, a concrete chamber lined with steel cabinets. Elena was waiting, her face pale. "The 1960 files are here," she said, unlocking a cabinet. "But someone else requested them last week. They didn't leave a name." Daniel's stomach churned. He scanned the files, match reports, rosters, correspondence. A faded document caught his eye. A letter addressed to a P12, signed by a Real Madrid official. It mentioned insurance for the Peñarol match and a meeting at 7x9. Before he could read further, the vault's lights flickered. "Get down," Elena hissed. Gunfire erupted. Daniel dove behind a cabinet as bullets sparked against steel. Two men in black masks stormed the vault, their silenced pistols sweeping the room. Elena screamed, clutching her arm where a bullet grazed her. Daniel grabbed the letter, stuffed it in his jacket, and dragged Elena toward an emergency exit. They stumbled into a service tunnel, the attacker's footsteps echoing behind. "Who are they?" Elena gasped. "I don't know," panted, "but they want the medal."
Chapter 5. The Peñarol Trail. Montevideo, Uruguay, May 2025. The letter from the archive burned a hole in Daniel's mind as he boarded a flight to Montevideo. Elena, shaken but alive, had stayed in Madrid to recover, promising to dig deeper into Real Madrid's 1960 records. The letter's cryptic reference to P12 and 7x9 pointed to Peñarol, the Uruguayan club crushed by Real Madrid in 1960. Daniel's anonymous source had sent another message. Peñarol's 12th man knows the truth. Montevideo greeted him with humid air and the pulse of a city steeped in football pride. Peñarol's Estadio Campeón del Siglo was his destination, but first he needed to decode P12. The 1960 Peñarol roster listed 11 starters, but the 12th man, a substitute named Luis Acosta, was barely mentioned. Acosta, now in his 80s, lived in a quiet suburb, according to a local contact Daniel had bribed. The taxi dropped him at a weathered house with peeling paint. Daniel knocked, and an elderly man with sharp eyes opened the door. "Luis Acosta?" Daniel asked. "Who wants to know?" Acosta's voice was gruff, but his gaze lingered on Daniel's face, as if searching for a threat. "I'm a journalist," Daniel said, showing the medal's photo. "This was from the 1960 match. It has a code. I think you know what it means." Acosta's hand trembled. "You're digging up ghosts, boy. That match was cursed." He invited Daniel inside, locking the door behind them. The living room was cluttered with football memorabilia, yellow and black Peñarol scarves, faded photos. Acosta sat heavily, staring at the medal's image. P12. That was me, the 12th man. I never played, but I saw things. "What things?" Daniel pressed. Acosta hesitated. "Before the second leg in Madrid, men came to our hotel. Suits, European accents. They offered money to throw the match. Our captain refused, but something happened. The referee, the linesman, they were bought, and someone on our side took the deal." Daniel's pulse raced. "Who?" Acosta shook his head. "I never knew, but they left a code, 7x9. It was a signal, a meeting place. I overheard them say it was in Buenos Aires." Before Daniel could ask more, the window shattered. A smoke grenade hissed, filling the room with choking fog. Daniel grabbed Acosta, pulling him toward the back door. Outside, a black SUV screeched to a stop. Kessler's scarred face glared from the driver's seat. "Run!" Daniel shouted, shoving Acosta towards an alley. He clutched the medal, sprinting as gunfire cracked behind him. The trail led to Buenos Aires, but Kessler was closing in. Chapter 6. The Buenos Aires Gambit. Buenos Aires, Argentina, May 2025. Daniel arrived in Buenos Aires battered but determined. Acosta had escaped, promising to contact Daniel if he remembered more. The code 7X9 gnawed at him. A meeting place, Acosta had said. But where? Buenos Aires was a sprawling maze, and the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup looms, its opening match just weeks away. Whatever the medal hid, it threatened more than history. It endangered the present. Daniel's hotel room overlooked Plaza de Mayo, its lights flickering in the dusk. He spread his clues on the bed, the medal, the letter, and a map of Buenos Aires. 7X9, a coordinate, a street? He scoured X for mentions of 1960 football scandals, finding a post about a Buenos Aires bar, El Nueve, rumored to host shady deals in the 60s. The address, Calle Sayate, number 9, 7X9. El Nueve was a dive bar in San Telmo, its neon sign buzzing faintly. Daniel entered, the air thick with cigarette smoke and tango music. He showed the bartender the medals photo. Ever hear of this? From 1960? The bartender, a grizzled man named Mateo, squinted. That's trouble. Men used to meet here back in the day, fixers. They'd talk football, but it wasn't about the game. Fixers for what? Daniel asked. Mateo leaned closer. Matches, referees, players. In 60, someone big got paid to throw the Intercontinental Cup. They met here at Table 9. Daniel's eyes flicked to the corner. Table 9 was empty, but a man in a leather jacket watched him from the bar. Kessler's men, he was sure of it. Any records? Daniel asked Mateo. Names, dates? Mateo shook his head. Burned long ago. But check the basement. They carved their deals into the walls. Daniel slipped downstairs, the stairwell dark and damp. The basement was a crypt of graffiti, names, dates, numbers, etched into brick. He found it near the back. RMP 1960 7X9. Below it, a name. C. Salazar. A fixer? A player? Footsteps echoed. Daniel spun, but the man in the leather jacket was faster. A fist slammed into his jaw, and the medal slipped from his pocket, clattering to the floor. "You're out of time, Harper," the man growled. Daniel kicked, catching the man's knee. He grabbed the medal and scrambled upstairs, bursting into the street. Sirens wailed in the distance. Kessler's men were everywhere, but C. Salazar was the key. And the FIFA Club World Cup was about to begin.
Chapter 7. The Fixer's Shadow. Daniel Harper's jaw throbbed from the punch in El Nueva's basement, but the medal was still in his pocket, and the name C. Salazar burned in his mind. He weaved through Buenos Aires' crowded San Telmo district, the neon lights blurring as he checked for tails. Kessler's men were relentless, and the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup was just 2 weeks away. Whatever C. Salazar knew, it was the key to unraveling the 1960 conspiracy and stopping whatever threat loomed over the tournament. Back in his hotel room, Daniel spread his clues across the desk: the medal, the stolen letter from Madrid, and a photo of the basement graffiti. RM 1960 7X9 C. Salazar. He searched X for the name, finding a single post from a football history account. Carlos Salazar, Argentine businessman, rumored to broker deals in 1960s football, disappeared after 1962. No photo, no records, just a ghost from the past. Daniel's phone buzzed. A new anonymous message. "Salazar's alive.
Find La Boca, Casa Amarilla, Locker 7x9. La Boca, Peñarol's sister club Boca Juniors' stronghold, was a dangerous place to poke around. But the code matched. Daniel grabbed his jacket and hailed a taxi. Casa Amarilla, Boca Juniors' training facility, was quiet at midnight. Daniel slipped past a sleeping security guard, his flashlight scanning rows of lockers in the old changing room. Locker 7x9 was rusted shut. He pried it open with a crowbar, revealing a leather-bound notebook. Its pages were filled with coded entries, dates, payments, names. One line stood out: 1960, Peñarol v. RM, referee paid, Salazar to deliver. A shadow moved behind him. Daniel spun, but a baton cracked against his temple. He crumpled, the notebook slipping from his hands. Through blurred vision, he saw a woman in a dark coat pick it up. "You're in over your head, Harper," she said, her accent European. She vanished as footsteps approached, more of Kessler's men. Daniel staggered to his feet, blood trickling down his face. The notebook was gone, but he'd seen enough. Salazar was alive, and the conspiracy reached higher than a single match. He needed to find the woman and the truth before the Club World Cup kicked off. Chapter 8: The Woman in Black. Buenos Aires, Argentina, May 2025. Daniel's head pounded as he stumbled into a La Boca alley, the distant roar of Boca Juniors fans echoing from La Bombonera. The woman who'd taken the notebook was his only lead, but her face was a blank in his memory, just a sharp voice and a dark coat. He checked his phone for the anonymous message, but the sender had gone silent. Kessler's men were closing in, and the notebook's contents confirmed what Acosta had hinted. The 1960 match was rigged, and Salazar was the fixer. Daniel needed help. He contacted Sofia Vargas, a Buenos Aires-based sports historian he'd met through the global pitch. Sofia was skeptical, but agreed to meet at a cafe in Palermo. Over mate, Daniel showed her the medal and recounted the chase. "Carlos Salazar," he said. "He brokered the 1960 fix. He's still out there." Sofia's eyes widened. "Salazar's a legend in football's dark corners. They say he worked for a syndicate. European money, South American muscle. If he's alive, he's dangerous." "Any idea where I'd find him?" Daniel asked. Sofia hesitated. "There's a rumor, an old estate in Tigre, north of the city. It's a fortress, owned by a recluse. Could be him." Daniel thanked her and left, but as he stepped outside, a black SUV screeched to a halt. The woman from Casa Amarilla leaned out, her dark hair framing a cold smile. "Get in, Harper, or you won't see tomorrow." He had no choice. Inside the SUV, she introduced herself as Lena Voss, a consultant for an unnamed client. "You're chasing ghosts," she said, holding the notebook. "Salazar's just a name. The real power is higher." "Who?" Daniel demanded. Lena smirked. "You'll see. But first, you're coming to Tigre." The SUV sped north, the city lights fading. Daniel clutched the metal, its edges digging into his palm. Lena knew more than she let on, and the estate in Tigre was either the answer or a trap.
Chapter 9: The Tigre Estate. Tigre, Argentina, May 2025. The estate loomed like a fortress in the Tigre Delta, surrounded by murky waterways and dense foliage. Lena led Daniel through iron gates, her pistol visible under her coat. The notebook was tucked in her bag, and Daniel's hands were free, but he knew escape wasn't an option, not yet. Inside, the mansion was a relic of old money. Chandeliers, mahogany, and faded portraits. An elderly man sat in a high-backed chair, his face weathered but sharp. Carlos Salazar. His eyes locked on the medal in Daniel's hand. "So, you found it," he said, his voice like gravel. "You fixed the match," Daniel said, his voice steady. "Why?" Salazar laughed, a dry, bitter sound. "Money, power, control. Football's a game, but it's also a weapon." In 1960, certain interests wanted Real Madrid to dominate. Europe's prestige, South America's submission. I was just the messenger. "Who paid you?" Daniel pressed. Salazar's smile faded. "Names you wouldn't believe. Men who still pull strings today. The 2025 Club World Cup. It's their new stage." Before Daniel could respond, an explosion rocked the estate. Windows shattered, and armed men in tactical gear stormed in. Lena shoved Daniel to the floor, firing at the intruders. "Kessler," she shouted, "he's tying up loose ends." Salazar grabbed the notebook and bolted for a hidden door. Daniel scrambled after him, dodging bullets. The medal's code, RM60P12-7X9, had led him here. But the truth was bigger. A syndicate manipulating football for decades, now targeting the 2025 tournament. Lena caught up, her face grim. "We're on the same side, Harper, for now." They escaped through a tunnel, emerging in the Delta's swamps. Salazar was gone, but the notebook was in Lena's hands. "We need to get to Miami," she said. "The Club World Cup starts there. That's where they'll strike." Daniel nodded, his mind racing. The conspiracy wasn't just history. It was a threat to football's future. Chapter 10: Miami Heat. The Miami skyline glittered against the night, but Daniel Harper felt no warmth as he and Lena Voss stepped off a private boat onto a dock near Hard Rock Stadium, the heart of the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup. The medal weighed heavy in his pocket. Its code, RM60P12-7X9, now a map to a conspiracy spanning decades. Carlos Salazar's confession in Tigre had confirmed the 1960 match was rigged, orchestrated by a syndicate with plans to strike again. The tournament's opening match was tomorrow, and Kessler's men were hunting them. Lena, her dark coat traded for tactical gear, scanned the docks. "Salazar's notebook names a contact here," she said, her voice low. "A FIFA official, codenamed referee. They're planning to fix the final." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Who's behind it?" Lena shook her head. "The syndicate's faceless. Politicians, tycoons, even ex-players. They've controlled football's shadows since '60. The notebook's our only proof." They slipped into the stadium's service tunnels, guided by Lena's hacked security codes. The air was thick with the hum of preparations, floodlights, banners, the distant roar of fans. Daniel's phone buzzed, a message from Sofia Vargas, the Buenos Aires historian. Found Salazar's old alias, C. Santoro, linked to a Miami account. Be careful. At a maintenance room, Lena unlocked a panel, revealing a safe. Inside was a USB drive labeled 7X9.
"This is it," she whispered. "Match-fixing plans, payments, names." Before Daniel could respond, the door burst open. Kessler stormed in, his scarred face twisted with rage, flanked by two armed men. "Hand it over, Harper," he growled, his pistol trained on them. Lena moved like lightning, hurling a wrench at Kessler's head. Daniel dove for cover as gunfire erupted, sparks flying off metal pipes. He grabbed the USB and sprinted down the tunnel, Lena covering him with her pistol. Kessler's men pursued, their boots pounding. Daniel's heart raced. The USB held the truth, but the stadium was a maze, and the syndicate's reach was everywhere. He needed to get the data to the global pitch and survive the night. Chapter 11: Betrayal's Sting. Daniel and Lena emerged onto the stadium's pitch, the empty stands looming like silent witnesses. The USB drive burned in Daniel's hand, but Kessler's men were closing in, their radios crackling through the tunnels. The Club World Cup's opening ceremony was hours away, and the syndicate's plan, rigging the final to favor a European giant, was set to unfold unless Daniel exposed them. "We need a signal to upload the data," Lena said, checking her phone. "The press box has a secure line." They climbed to the press box, the stadium's lights casting long shadows. Daniel plugged the USB into a laptop, his fingers flying as he sent the files to his editor at the global pitch. Names flashed on the screen: a FIFA vice president, a former Real Madrid executive, even a Peñarol legend from 1960. Payments traced to offshore accounts, referee assignments manipulated. The 1960 fix was just the beginning. Lena's eyes flicked to the door. "We won't last that long." A click echoed. Daniel turned to see Lena's pistol aimed at him. Her face was cold, unreadable. "I'm sorry, Harper," she said. "The syndicate pays better." Daniel's stomach dropped. "You're one of them?" "Not quite," Lena said. "I'm a survivor. They want the medal, the USB, and you gone." She gestured for him to hand them over. Daniel's mind raced. He'd trusted Lena, fought beside her. Now, the medal's edges dug into his palm as he weighed his options. "Why now?" he asked, stalling. "Because the game's bigger than you," Lena said. "Football's of machine. The syndicate keeps it running." Footsteps thudded outside. Kessler's voice barked orders. Lena glanced at the door, and Daniel seized his chance. He lunged, knocking the pistol from her hand. They grappled, crashing into the desk. The laptop fell, its screen shattering. Daniel grabbed the USB and bolted, Lena's curses echoing behind him. He sprinted down the stands, Kessler's men flooding the pitch. Lena's piece of betrayal cut deeper than the gunfire. The truth was out, but Daniel was alone, and the syndicate wasn't done. Chapter 12: The Final Whistle. Dawn broke over Hard Rock Stadium, the Club World Cup's opening match hours away. Daniel hid in a storage room, the USB drive and metal his only leverage. Lena's betrayal had nearly cost him everything, but the global pitch had published the story online minutes ago. Headlines screamed, "1960 match fixing exposed, syndicate targets 2025 Club World Cup." Social media, especially X, exploded with speculation, naming FIFA officials and clubs. Daniel's phone buzzed. Elena Torres, the Madrid curator. "FIFA's in chaos," she said. "Arrests are happening. You did it, Daniel." "Not yet," he muttered. Kessler was still out there, and the syndicate's leaders remained untouchable. He slipped onto the stadium's roof, the Miami skyline sprawling below. The USB held backups of the data, but the metal's code, RM60P12-7X9, still nagged him. Why engrave it? He examined it again, noticing a faint seam. With a knife, he pried it open, revealing a microchip. A tracker? A data chip? Before he could investigate, Kessler appeared, his pistol gleaming. "No more running, Harper." Daniel raised his hands, the metal dangling. "It's over, Kessler. The world knows." Kessler sneered. "The syndicate's bigger than your story. Football bends to us." A helicopter roared overhead, its spotlight blinding. FBI agents rappelled onto the roof, shouting orders. Kessler fired, but Daniel dove, rolling toward the edge. Bullets sparked around him. An agent tackled Kessler, cuffing him as he cursed. Daniel clutched the metal's chip, his breath ragged. The FBI had acted on the global pitch's story, but Lena was gone, and Salazar remained a shadow. The chip, he realized, held the syndicate's full ledger, names, accounts, every fix since 1960. He handed it to an agent, his mission complete. As the stadium filled with fans, Daniel watched from the sidelines. The Club World Cup would go on, cleansed for now. But football's shadows ran deep, and he knew this wasn't the end. Chapter 13: Shadows of the Game. The Hard Rock Stadium buzzed with the energy of the FIFA Club World Cup's opening match, but Daniel Harper felt no triumph as he sat in a safe house on Miami's outskirts. The syndicate's ledger, extracted from the metal's hidden chip, had sparked global outrage. FIFA officials resigned, sponsors pulled funding, and X was ablaze with demands for reform. Yet Daniel knew the victory was incomplete. Lena Vos and Carlos Salazar were still out there, and the syndicate's roots ran deeper than any headline. Elena Torres, the Madrid curator, had flown to Miami to help. Over coffee in the safe house, she handed Daniel a dossier. Interpol tracked Salazar to Panama, she said. He's been funding shell companies tied to the syndicate since the 60s. But Lena's the real mystery. No record of her exists before 2020. Daniel's jaw clenched. Lena's betrayal in the press box still stung. She'd played him, but her final words, "The game's bigger than you," hinted at a deeper motive. Was she a true believer in the syndicate or a double agent? He needed answers. A tip from Sofia Vargas, the Buenos Aires historian, pointed to a warehouse in Miami's Port District, a rumored syndicate hideout. Daniel and Elena arrived at dusk, the air thick with salt and diesel. The warehouse was a fortress of crates and shadows. Daniel's flashlight caught a glint, a laptop, its screen glowing with a live feed of the Club World Cup match. Lena stepped from the darkness, her pistol lowered but ready. "You don't quit, Harper," she said, her voice softer than before. "I told you to stop." "Why'd you do it?" Daniel demanded. "You had the notebook, the USB. You could have ended this." Lena's eyes flickered. "I was in too deep. The syndicate owns people, families, lives. I took their money to protect someone." "Who?" Daniel pressed. Before she could answer, the warehouse doors exploded inward. Salazar's men, armed with rifles, stormed in. Daniel and Elena dove behind crates as bullets tore through wood. Lena fired back, her shots precise. "Get out, Harper," she shouted. "The laptop has everything." Daniel hesitated, then grabbed the laptop, its screen showing a list of syndicate operatives, names tied to FIFA, UEFA, even CONMEBOL. Elena covered him, her borrowed pistol shaking in her hands. Lena fought like a cornered animal, taking down 2 men before a bullet grazed her shoulder. She staggered but waved Daniel off. "Go, publish it." He ran, the laptop under his arm, Elena at his side. Behind them, Lena held the line, her silhouette fading in the gunfire. Daniel didn't know if she'd survive, but her sacrifice gave him a chance. At the safe house, he uploaded the data to the global pitch. The story broke as the Club World Cup final began. Syndicate exposed, football's dark empire falls. Salazar vanished, but the syndicate's leaders were named. Arrests followed across 3 continents. Lena's fate remained unknown, a ghost in the game's shadows. Daniel stood on the stadium's edge, watching the final's closing whistle. The beautiful game would endure, but its shadows ran deep. The whistle has blown on the secret of the 1960 medal, but the shadows of football's past still whisper. From the Intercontinental Cup to the FIFA Club World Cup, the beautiful game is a battleground of passion, glory, and secrets. Daniel Harper's journey uncovered one truth, but countless mysteries remain. Tales of betrayal, hidden codes, and power plays that shape the sport we love. Want more? Subscribe to the Global Pitch for exclusive stories that dive into football's darkest corners. Join us and uncover the next secret waiting in the stands.